They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Coming up on Life with Brian.
And I says, yous are out there eating biscuits and I'm in here working bollock naked.
He'd rather admit to wearing a blouse than a Rangers shirt.
Yeah, blouse and a girl's kilt.
That is what an ex-Premier League footballer does when they hang up their boots, obviously.
Of course.
Hello and welcome to another Life with Brian. I'm Mark Godfrey and I'm here with my co-host Matthew Christ and of course former Aston Villa and Motherwell striker Brian McClare. How are you both? Have you been up to anything interesting?
I'm good. I can only imagine Brian's been up to loads of interesting things.
I wouldn't say necessarily interesting. I've been revisiting some C90 cassette tapes and using Shazam to discover exactly what's on some of them. And it's been pretty surprising. So much so that I might invest in a new fangled Walkman.
So let's get this straight. So you found the cassettes; they didn't have a label on or an insert.
No, some of them. No, I used to do them one or two a week, going back to 1983 through to all the way through really till MP3 came out, and I had an awful lot of them, but I lost quite a few of them. So there's a number of them who did have names on them, but no card that told you what was on them. So I've been sitting listening to cassettes and using Shazam. So that's been
so that
very interesting, you know.
That is what an ex-Premier League footballer does when they hang up their boots, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, well,
of course.
I'm pleased to hear that you've managed to get back some of those Tina Turner albums that you've been missing all these years. Okay. Our guest this time is an award-winning actor whose roles have seen him in, amongst other things, Outlander on TV, The Angel's Share on the big screen, Mark Renton in Porno, the follow-up to Trainspotting on stage. And as we're going to talk about today, the play Singin, I'm Noah Billy, he's a Tim. Welcome to the podcast, Scott Kyle. How are you, Scott?
I'm very well, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
A pleasure.
You haven't been going through any old C90 cassettes, have you? In your
no, but I do remember them, so that's maybe not a good thing.
Well, they're making a comeback.
Taping the chart, recording the charts.
Well,
when they were on with your tape recorder ready, trying to get the DJ to shut up so you could just tape the songs. I remember all that. So yeah, when Brian was chatting there, I was bringing back memories.
Well, according to my research, the first thing that you bought musically was a cassette.
Yes, wow, that's I don't know where that is, but that's really in-depth research there. And I hope it's the same answer. In my recollection is it was Boom Shake the Room by Will Smith. Is that what you've got on your list?
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah, wow. Boom Shake the Room from Woolworths and Robert
Can you do the stutter? Well. Can you recite the stutter rap?
Yeah, big Will Smith come on the TV and I heard Boom Boom Shake the Room and I was like, I need to go to Woolworths and buy that song.
Yeah, Brian never... Yeah, his research knows no bounds. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, that's an hint to get the. I'm not worried, Brian.
No, you don't need to worry at all. It's been a joy researching. I found that you to be a very inspirational person.
That's very kind of you to say.
I wanted to start really. I love daydreaming. I've always daydreamed all my life, and I wanted to ask you about daydreaming and. What was this wee boy daydreaming about? Can you see?
Wow, Brian, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? Well, the thing about that story, I don't know how.
No, but could you remember of dreaming then? I'm not about acting because I know that's something that can't happen later on. But dreaming of being, I don't know, a football player or.
I think there's a few in there, Brian.
A chef or an astronaut, you know.
I think there's a couple of things, right? And I tell this story. This has been part probably my growing up in the healing process that happens in life when you're maybe for a broken home was. I remember always wanting a decent guy to walk through the door that would look after my mum And that was something I always dreamed of. Like the next guy that my mum meets up will come through the door and he'll be a good guy. And I think as I've grown older a wee bit, I was like, the nice thing is you maybe that guy doesn't walk through the door, but you get to walk through the door as that guy. So there's a wee bit of daydreaming about growing up and a wee bit of maybe having a better life in terms of as an adult and maybe give it to our kids as a better life. But yeah, you talk about stuff in terms of, and that wee bit I always said when I went to college, it wasn't to be an actor, it was to get a better life. That's what I was going, was I wanted to do a bit better than what I was doing at that time. Was filling the shelves in the supermarket. But yeah, daydreaming, loved football, grew up playing football, did all right. I mean, I won like player of the year and stuff at 14, but I didn't really start playing until I was about 12. And we were in an organised team, and like I was picked up by like Postal United, which was quite a big thing in our area, that somebody was coming and picking me up every week to go to Postal. And to be honest, it came down to finances. There was extra training courses and stuff that I was getting offered to go on, and I knew that my mum didn't have the money, so I didn't want to ask her for it. So, you know, kind of quitted myself as well as you could, but there was definitely an aspect of the finances involved in developing football any further than I could was definitely a challenge. And in terms of the other picture you brought up, Brian, and embarrassing me there, that's a picture of me. I used to sing Donald, Where's Your Trousers? That was a song I grew up loving, and my mum dressed me up on Halloween with a kilt on, as far as I was aware. And as it transpired, I think it was a St Trinian's school skirt. I think her daughter had grown out of a skirt, and that is a skirt I'm wearing in that photograph you showed there, Brian. So I had no idea that I'm turning up and champing people's door and singing Donald, Where's Your Trousers? And I wasn't aware that I was wearing a schoolgirl's uniform, essentially.
Well, that was normal then, because we used to get hand-me-down stuff, you know. And
but I didn't have a big sister.
No, but I didn't either. I don't know.
My brother's old football boots are.
It wasn't better. We get there's some pictures somewhere of us wearing kilts round about, maybe a wee bit younger than that, but I'm not quite sure where they are. But the thing that one of the things that traumatized me was getting which I thought was a shirt to wear to school, and then discovering I had a real problem buttoning it up because the buttons were on the wrong side. And then hoping that nobody's going to spot it, you know, because it's just, you know, secondary school, you're very, you know.
Well, I want you to imagine this, Brian. Imagine somebody brought you onto a podcast and were showing photographs of you in that blouse.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully none of them exist. That's what
if there's anyone out there that's got pictures of Brian wearing that blouse, we want to hear from them.
Yeah. Another thing that you know, about the formative things that appears to me to have made a big impact on your life and your kind of philosophy in life and your drive, I think, and your energy and your ambition is that a little story about you getting jumped when you were 14 and your mates on the way and leaving you.
Yeah, that was a huge moment, Brian, because we grew up in a kind of a dead end street, and it was a dead end. I'm not saying it was a dead end area. There was a dead end at the end of our street, and all the kids went out and played in the park together and played football together, and we went to the football teams together. And at the age of 14, I went up to an area in Rutherglen or South Lanarkshire called Blair Beth, and I was having a wee kiss with a girl up a street somewhere, and one of the boys came down and said, "Oh, we're fighting with the local gang down the corner, come on down." And I'm like, I'm not interested in getting involved in a fight down the corner. And a wee bit of peer pressure, and I marched down to get involved in it. And then within the turn of events in it, I ended up getting beaten within an inch of my life off of the kind of rival gang. And all my pals, or so-called pals, you probably look at, everybody ran away. And there was only one. So, give you an idea on this. The guys that were kicking my head in, I was 14 at the time, these guys were kind of 17 to 21. So they were young men, and I'd got myself into this predicament. Nobody else's fault. I should never have went down. I should never have bowed to the peer pressure. But they were smashing bottles off my head, hitting my knees so that I would collapse. And there was about 3 or 4 girls came along, and the girls were kind of standing over me and putting their legs in the way of my head and stopping these guys from smashing my head in. And there was a young lad, Craig Kelly, who I played in the football team with. Craig came running back, and he smacked one of the guys, and they all started chasing Craig. And in that moment, it gave me enough time to for the girls to get me up, and I, kind of limped towards kind of Castlemilk Road, and at that moment a car stopped and the guy got out and he said, "Have you been knocked down?" Now at this point I've got blood pouring down my face. Unbeknown to me, my knees all swollen up and all that. I'm absolutely covered in blood. And he says, "Have you been knocked down?" I said, "No, I got attacked." And he jumped back in his car and drove away and left me. So if I'd said I'd knocked down, I think he would have took me to hospital. And I managed to scupper away. Craig later came and kind of got me and kind of carried me home. And that night, I walked into the house. My brother was babysitting. He was in the house. He was supposed to be in charge, looking after me. And I walked in with blood all in my face. And the first thing I said to him was, "Don't tell my mum." And I went in and was washing myself up. My brother realised my ear was hanging off. It'd been all cut and all that stuff. And he's like, "This is not something you can hide from my mum. You need to go to the hospital." And my mum tells that story as that was the first night out she'd had in a decade. Because she never went out, and that night she was out at a works night out, and the neighbour was supposed to be keeping an eye on us from next door, I got a very big life lesson there, and that did change. It changed how I looked at friends, because I'd never have left any of them, and that was a big horrible kind of moment, but a wee bit of a learning curve as well.
Yeah, so my kind of thing, I take it, looking back on that moment, you have to follow from that moment, which one you wanted to be, that you understood or you got the idea in your head that it was going to be, if you were going to be successful at anything, it was going to be about what you did and make your own decisions about that. And that's the kind of thing I've got, you say, from reading about you and listening to you over the last couple of days, that you've used that very much, right through everything you've done.
Well, those are the sort of things, Brian, that when you go into situations, maybe in auditions and stuff, like obviously when I did the Angel Share, the Ken Loach movie, I was playing the antagonistic bully, Clancy. You were able to channel some of those guys you'd met along the way, the sort of guys you wouldn't want to mess with, you wouldn't want to meet in the street, and that were maybe heading in a certain direction in life, and you're able to take on board some of those traits that you'd seen over the years growing up in Glasgow and create a character. And also in Kajaki, which was a British war movie. So kind of grew up in Glasgow with gang culture. And then I got to play the kind of soldier. So in the audition for Kajaki, they said, how do you think you would feel if you were standing in a minefield and your mate's just have his leg blown off? And I said, well, no idea to comprehend how that would feel for either person involved in that situation you gave us. But I said, I've played football and I've seen the goalkeeper with his knee snapped. And I know that that's going to affect his work, his family life, financially it's going to impact him and all that stuff. And you're standing there, the reality of the risks of playing the sport you like as well. So I said it's not the same as standing on the mine, but that's as close as I can get to, and giving you an idea of the emotions you feel when you see somebody else going through something that is life changing.
The Angel Share, I think, is a wonderful film, and I love Ken Loach's films anyway. I love the way that he inspires actors to participate in that. And you've worked on it. I've heard different bits and pieces though. But one of the funniest things I've ever heard in a film is when John Henshaw's character takes the lads to Edinburgh. I was living in Edinburgh at the time, so standing on Princes Street, and Gary Maitland's character turns around and says, "What is that? What's that up there?" And John Henshaw looks at him as if he's daft and says, "Well, that's the castle." And John Maitland says, "Well, what did they put it up there for?" And I just think that was absolute. And there's no answer to it, I just thought that was wonderful. So, did Gary come out with that himself, or was that part of the?
That particular scene, I can't give anybody credit for that piece of comedy genius. So I don't know if that was Paul Lafferty, the writer, or if that was improvisation. But what I would say is that it was one of the greatest experiences in terms of being an actor working with Ken Loach, because of the freedom to improvise. It was encouraged. It was a lot of the time you were turning up on set and there wasn't a script. They would give you a scenario and a situation, and the cast would improvise something. If they needed the script, they would give you it. If they thought, "Oh, you're way off, this is not what we wanted to film," but they would kind of give you a steer and see how you would play around that. So I imagine it could have been improvised, but I don't want to do Paul Lafferty a disservice if he did write that. But yeah, absolutely comedy brilliance. And the same, I suppose, the bit at the start and all.
Oh, yeah, it was
the railway.
yeah, of
you know,
course.
is it Ford Kiernan is the voice of God?
Step back, yeah.
Gary's character is that God, and he falls on the railway tracks, you know, kind of. And Ford Kiernan's character saying, "It is God," and they get your arse off the train, the 6 train tracks before the train coming. So yeah, but that was a great experience, Brian. That was. I remember the only negative about working with Ken Loach, I don't mind sharing this. One of the days I was told by the kind of makeup team that I had to go for a sunbed. So I went for a sunbed, and when I reported back to them, they said, "How many have you had?" And I said, "There's only one," but I went a 9-minute one, and I was bright red. They said, "Don't do any more," right? And we turned up to just down at Parkhead Forge. This day we were filming. Now bear in mind, I don't know what we're doing, other than I've been sent for a sunbed. We arrive and we're filming in a sunbed shop, which they've put up a new sign and stuff. And I walk in, and I start to get the feeling that my character's going to be in the sunbed. Hence, I'm starting to get worried that it might be a nude scene. All right. So again, no script, so I don't know what's happening. And then Ken comes round and he kind of says, "This is the scene where your characters went for a sunbed, and Paul Brannigan, who plays Robbie in it, in the lead, he's coming to kind of seek revenge on you. So he breaks into the salon that you're in. He opens up the sunbed and he puts a blade to your throat." And I said, "So it's a nude scene then?" And he says, "Well, the girl in the shop," you know, with a smile, and he says, "So the girl in the shop said, there's these paper pants." So he proceeds to pull out this, it looks like a black thong, right? These paper pants that he shows me. They say the girl said that they give them out, so you're welcome to wear them. And I knew at that moment, I was like, I've grown up in Glasgow. I'm playing the baddie, the Glasgow thug in a Ken Loach movie, and I thought, this guy cannot be wearing the paper pants in the sunbed, right? Because I thought, you know, you go into a cubicle door, you lock the door, you take your clothes off to go into the sunbed. Even if you're supposed to, most Glaswegian guy is not going to wear the wee paper pants. And I thought the only reason you're going to watch the paper pants in the movie, my pals will be saying, "Well, you didn't want to get your willy out." So I was like, I need to do the nude scene. So I said, "It's a nude scene." They said, "How do you feel about that?" I said, "Look, it is what it is. That's the job." So fast forward, we're filming all day. I'm naked. There's 20 people around me at all times filming. We're about halfway through the day, and Ken pops his head round the door. Now, Ken still uses the old reels of film, so he hadn't converted to digital yet. So when they have to change the film, it's a wee bit of time to put a new one in. So he pops his head round and says, "Scott, just changing the film reel. We in a couple of minutes," and he's eating a biscuit. And I says, "You're out there eating biscuits, and I'm in here working, bollock naked." We finished the filming, and then that was it. So we're going to the movie premiere maybe 12 months later. We're a big red carpet in Glasgow, and first time being a movie star, it's exciting. So I'm briefing my mum and my gran and all that, by the way, just so you know, there's a scene in it where I've got no clothes on. Watch the movie, Brian, and the scene's not in the movie, right? Doesn't make a movie. And I am raging. Not just because it's my screen time cut, but I'm going 12 hours bollock naked in front of 20 people, you know, guys eating rolls and sausage and all that kind of stuff, and I'm there acting my heart out with no clothes on. And when I spoke to Paul and Ken later on, I says, why did you cut that? And he said, with the arc of the story, if you've seen it, you'll know the idea is that Paul's character at the end, Robbie, changes his life and decides to make better choices, and they were of the mind that if he came back to get that revenge, he's not making better choices, he's not really changed. So they cut the scene for that, but they did put it in the deleted scenes, and I have it on my show reel, I'm delighted to say.
Yeah,
so it didn't go to waste. It didn't go to waste.
No, I've seen it, yeah.
Talking of, we were talking about your life growing up in Glasgow and your acting career, and that kind of brings us on nicely to I wanted to talk about this play you're involved with. Singin, I'm No Billy, He's a Tim. Can you just tell us a bit about the premise of the play and what people can expect?
Well, you can expect a lot of laughter. It's laughing, dancing, singing, and crying. That'll probably, you can get. That's a summary of what you're going to see. But ultimately, it's the day of the big football match. So Rangers are playing Celtic, or Celtic are playing Rangers, whatever side whatever we want to come first. And 2 lads have been arrested for non-payment of fines. Now, this part of the story, according to Des Dillon, who wrote it, is based on true events. That everybody in Cope Bridge on the morning of the Old Firm game were arrested for non-payment of fines, and their wives and family now ran round to get the money to pay the fines so as they could get out to see the game. So that's essentially what's happening in the play. The guys have got money on the match, and whoever wins, their wives will collect the money from the bookmakers, pay their fines, and that person will get out. So obviously the stakes are very, very high. The two characters are Billy and Tim. So Billy obviously is a Rangers fan and Tim's a Celtic fan, and they come crashing into the prison cell this day, and they are looked after by Harry, who's the turnkey. They persuade Harry to let them watch the match through the hatch. So they're having short seats, watching the match as it unfolds. As the drama unfolds on the pitch, there's also drama unfolding in Harry's world. So Harry is waiting on a phone call about his sick grandson. His grandson's in for an operation. So as the game unfolds, the guys are getting an insight into the match, but they're also getting an insight into Harry's life. And as it unfolds, as the roller coaster of events from the operation theatre are coming through, the guys start to kind of try and support Harry, who's having a tough time a wee bit, and it kind of brings them a bit together. There's everything you can imagine in a comedy like this. Even the idea of just putting them, a Rangers fan and a Celtic fan, in a cell together is funny. Putting them in a cell together on the day of the Old Firm game, even more so. And it's a 90-minute roller coaster of emotions, as I say, singing, dancing, laughing, and everything you expect in an Old Firm play, really. But it's a brilliant piece of theatre, and I always say that first and foremost, if you remove the tops out of it, it still stands alone as a brilliant piece of theatre. It could be a Sunny Shiite, it could be Israeli Palestine, it could be Montague Capulet. The premise of the play is so good, it really works. And I found the play in a library almost 2 decades ago, and that is the story of the play's been an adventure as well, on a roller coaster. I had the play for 5 years. We started it in pubs. We built it to the biggest show in Scotland. Then I lost the rights to the show, and I went away and did a number of other things, including all the stuff we've discussed, the movies and TV shows and stuff. And then about 4 or 5 months ago, I got the chance to take the rights back for the show and do it again. So yeah, that's an interesting story itself.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Coat Bridge there. I mean, we can't bypass that without mentioning that's obviously Brian's stomping ground. So, I mean, did it ring a bell with you, Brian, that sort of that kind of caper? Not being locked up in a cell. I'm not for once accusing you.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, you can see the relevance to all this different things. I've not seen it, but I'm looking forward to going to see it because you're going to be all over the place, aren't you? So there'll be some places close by to wherever I am at a particular moment, that I'll get along. But I won't be telling you where I'm coming because I don't want to get mentioned, because I know that's something that's happened in the past, where you get a roll call and certain people get a mention, so I might keep it quiet. So, but and I mean, I think that like anything is that Des has written it from his own experiences, hasn't he? So that often the best stuff is about what you see and relevant to your thing. And the humour, of course, is a wonderful, particularly. I've got this thing that I think that not everybody, but a lot of people in the west of Scotland are just funny. They have an ability to tell stories and the ability to tell jokes. And I think maybe that's one of the things that I gathered that when you were given the opportunity to go to college. I know you went to college to get away from stacking shelves, but you chose, or you tried to get into an acting course without really knowing very much about it. And I think that your desire, your energy, and your experiences of your karaoke, your experiences of telling jokes, gets you through the bit where you've no idea. Why should you know what a monologue is?
Mm-hmm.
So and then you said you did. Can you remember exactly what it was you did? Because they asked you about.
So the day when
it.
So just a wee bit of context. So I remember the letter that I got from the college, and the reason I remember it is because it put me in a very embarrassing situation, and subsequently they changed the way they worded the letter. So the letter that I received from the college that I'd applied to go to do this acting course that my now wife had talked me into, it said you'll be asked to perform from memory a monologue. I didn't know what a monologue was, but I thought, all right, it's obviously a memory test. So when I arrive, they're going to give me this thing and I need to memorise it. So I skip into the college and I go in, and there's an interview party at first, which I'm sitting going, I'm being honest with them, I want to change my life. I'm really keen. I'll be here every day. I won't mess these about. It's a huge opportunity. I'd like to do it. And they said, brilliant. Okay, Scott, on you go with your audition piece. And I said, audition piece? I don't have an audition piece. And they said, oh, you were asked to prepare one? I says, no, I wasn't asked to prepare anything. I said, I was asked to, I was going to do a memory thing. And they're like, yeah, a monologue, that's an audition piece. That's what you're supposed to prepare. I says, oh, I thought you meant you'll be asked to perform from memory, as in you would give me, I have to memorise it. So they subsequently they changed the letter, the way they worded, because of me. But at that moment they said, oh, that's fine, doesn't really matter, it's fine, we'll give you an improvisation. And the improvisation, to answer your question, Brian, was just imagine you've auditioned today and you've got into the course, you get the letter in the house. So imagine you've just received a letter in the house, on you go. So obviously, I walk to my front door in my imagination, pick up the imaginary letter, do a bit of miming to open it, read it, I process it, and then I run around the room like I've just scored a goal in the World Cup final to celebrate, and all the antics that I'd ever seen any footballer doing. I was pulling it all out the hat in this edition. And after that, they accepted me onto the course. And I still think to this day, I don't know whether they felt a pity for me or if it was my postcode coming from the area I came from, if I matched the criteria they were trying to fill. I don't know, but bless those three judges on the panel for giving me a chance. And I never thought from getting into the course and not knowing what a monologue was. 3 years later, I graduated top of my class with a theatre company. And 5 years later, I had the biggest show in Scotland. 5 years after that, was running a theatre. And this was a wee guy that didn't know what a monologue was, so a bit of an incredible journey within that as well.
You're listening to Life with Brian.
I'm just waiting for Sparky to do his own podcasts, but this one came along first, so...
Shocky will back me up on this. Anything deep fried tastes great.
It was Robbie Williams, and he's like, Dominic, you survived the 90s as well. How did we do it?
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
I just was thinking there when you were talking about the play. Whenever we get someone on from Glasgow, either side of the divide, I'm always interested in their sort of experience of this sort of bitter divide that exists. It was in the play, and you're obviously experiencing both sides of it, and you've obviously worked with a lot of Celtic fans, and I think your brother's a Celtic fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I just wonder how what your experiences of that rivalry have been in your life. I mean, some people manage to avoid the shit that goes with it, but there
was no avoiding it growing up. So the character I play, Billy, is based on a family of three brothers, and within the family, I grew up with these guys. There's three levels of bigotry within these brothers. One is extreme, to the extreme of the extreme. There's a kind of middle ground, and there's somebody who goes to the games but isn't that fussed. And from, obviously, the play goes on a roller coaster, so there's times where the bigotry is, turn that bigotry monitor up and it's the full volume. And there's other times where the guys are coming round to maybe seeing a wee bit of the other person's point of view. So there's quite an extreme range in there. And the way I managed to find the truth for the character was to find the truth through the three brothers. And I had a really unique experience. When I was doing Billy and Tim, somebody offered me a chance to go and see a Rangers and Celtic game at Ibrox. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to go as Billy, as the character. I'm going to go that day and experience it how this character would be experienced it going to the match every week. And I met the three brothers in the subway station that I was building my character on. So it was surreal. I was there going as the three of them, and I met them in the subway. And how it unfolded was, I was in the subway at Singin Centre. I'm downstairs, and the youngest brother comes down first, and he's the mildest. So I say, "Oh, how you doing?" He's chatting away to me. He's not singing songs. He's no shouting profanity. He's no drunk. He's okay. And I say, "I'm going to the football match," and he's part of. He's a twin. So normally you see the two of them. I says, "Where's your other half?" And he says, "Oh, he's upstairs. The older brother's there as well, and he's been sick." So he's bringing him down, right? And I'm going, this is starting to all actually take shape. So the younger brother comes down, and he's no way the older brother. I'm saying, how are you doing all that? And he's got he maybe been singing as he comes round the corner. And I'm like, how are you doing? Singing a sectarian song. How are you doing? And he says, I'm all good. And I says, where's your older brother? He's always upstairs. He's been sick, and then he's shouting at the guards and he's singing. He's going to get to jail, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. So then 5 minutes later, the older brother comes down, and I get to meet him as well. So he's pumped up the sectarian, and he's saying certain things and doing certain things. So yeah, it's and then I go on the subway with him. So the threes are on a subway, and you can imagine the singing and everything else. And as it unfolds, I start to say, if you're ever doing a movie, you need to play me, Scott. And I'm saying I'm actually playing you in a bloody play. That's his research for it. So yeah, I grew up with those three, but my brother grew up as kind of Celtic, and we didn't have a dad around, so it wasn't like there was a family allegiance. I don't know if my brother picked Celtic, and I don't even know if I picked Rangers just to spite him, to be honest. I'm not sure what was it. But obviously, like anything, you then on the days of the matches, you go with your pals that are wearing the colours that you're aligned to, and my brother would do the same. So there's mixed families all the way through it. So that an understanding of it and growing up, and to be honest, probably a bit of ignorance to what I thought sectarianism was, because I thought, I've been guilty of singing songs that I didn't know the meaning of, and you learn that from doing workshops in the schools and stuff, and you're educating other people, and you're going, geez, I was a kid myself singing some of these songs. But the big hit was when we went to Belfast, and you realised that the people in Northern Ireland have had to live with the consequences of sectarianism, whereas in Glasgow we kind of got the big match, and that day it's maybe quite intense, but it filters away as the week goes on and people got back on with their life, and as the healing from the match, whatever side you're on, happens to go on back Monday, and it's kind of all forgot about nearly,
But it's such a unique rivalry, probably more so in it than any other football game in the world, really. But as Brian says, you're taking the play all over the place. So do you think it's a story that transcends that sort of rivalry? If you go to Swansea, if you go to Sunderland, if you go to Liverpool, it's something that people understand just in their local area. Yeah,
100%. As I said, it's about two human beings that locked up in a prison cell that don't like each other, and that you could put any flag on that, any nationality or any kind of circumstances, and it would still work. But I think with the football added to it, football's the biggest sport in the world. We've got the World Cup, we've got the Champions League. People all over the world know the stakes. There's always a derby wherever you are in the world. That's Milan, Inter Milan. You can go to any country in the world, and there's a big derby, and that's the priest. It's set that the story unfolds on the day of this big derby. So I think anybody from it could easily be a Man United fan and a Man City fan in the prison cell. A Liverpool, Everton. It could be kind of anything. So. Yeah. Coatbridge, Airdrie.
But I was going to say, Brian, when we had Bobby Bluebell on, we were talking about your experience of the Old Firm rivalry, but is it something that's completely unrecognisable from when you were growing up as a kid, the Celtic Rangers game, to what it is now? And
I think it's not as... I still think there is, particularly on the day, like that Scott was saying, that, can separate families. But I think that the thing at the moment, which is disappointing, is that there's not away fans. I know they've been chatting about it, and hopefully in the next game at Ibrox there will be some away fans at it. But when I was playing, that part of the enjoyment was, the atmosphere in the ground. Mm-hmm. And from kickoff, I'd no experiences of it because I'd never been there. The first Old Firm game I was at, I came on as sub. So that I hadn't experienced what it was really like outside or anything like that, or travelling different trains and different ways to get to the games. But I definitely think there's something missing from the game at the moment with the fans. I mean, you're probably never going to get to the situation when there would be 10,000 away fans at either ground, which I thought a really brilliant atmosphere. That has its own problems and issues, but I think that's something it depends on where you are, I suppose. Some areas will be very much one way and other areas will be very much another way, and it'll just depending on sometimes the time of year, but in general I don't really feel in the west of Scotland there is a great attention paid to it.
But around the world there is, and I know maybe not so much when you were playing, but you watch an Old Firm game. I've spent a lot of time in America, and it could be for anywhere. The Old Firm game, wherever you are, is massive. I always think that must be quite daunting if you're playing in that game to realise that you're playing in a game that people are watching all over Ireland, all over America, Australia, all over the world, and a goal or a mistake you make is global.
Can mean the difference between having a television and not having a television.
But it's the thing is, when you're there, I mean, the pitch for me was the stage for the football player. when you're on that, you're there to play football and do whatever you can. Very rarely did I consider what might be a consequence of me either scoring a goal or missing a chance or doing any of those other things. Half time, you maybe get a wee bit of an idea, but that was only down to one person, that usually the manager and what he was saying about it, or the coach and other people involved. You would sometimes, depending on where you went to pick up the ball, if you did go to do that to get the game restarted quickly, you might hear one or two little things, but in general, you were just focused. I think that's the thing, you're focused on it. I mean, I've heard Scott say this sort of thing when he's on stage. He tries to get into, he tries to first of all meditate, I think, relax and get into character and hope that everything runs as smoothly as possible, which it's not going to always, particularly in a play like you're going to be involved in over the next 18 months, where it changes, and it can change depending on the news of the time.
And it can change on the audience of the night as well.
Of course, I
think I told the story before where you're in Dublin and it was 99.9% Celtic fans. It's a very different night to, a night maybe where the majority is the blue side, and you're going, I've got some in tonight. And so it depends where you're going. In Belfast and stuff like that, it was, it's 50-50. We're coming along to it, and that's intense doing the show there. I just wanted to pick up, Brian, sorry, on the
sorry, you go,
thing you're saying about the crowd. I think you're absolutely right. It's a sad day that the crowd aren't there, and there was a great bit in the theatre show where events have unfolded and the two boys have fell out, and Tim, the Celtic fan, isn't he taking his turn watching the TV, and Billy says, "Come on, there's no point yet without, there's no use without an enemy." And there's an aspect of that with the big matches when they're watching it. But I do think I think Rangers initiated it by saying Celtic couldn't come to Ibrox, and true old-fashioned tit for tat state Celtic say, well, you can't come to us then. And I think, unfortunately, what happened was it was easier for the police to manage it, because actually on the Old Firm Day, they kind of, like whatever stadium you're at, they pretty much divide around the stadium, so you can't travel there, so that certain fans go in one direction, certain fans go in the other. And only having one group of fans is a lot easier for the police to manage. It's a lot easier for transport. It's a lot easier. And I think there's a wee bit of, they did something and there was an unintended consequence that police and that were going, this is actually much better, because we know that it's all green Celtic fans that are going to Parkhead at the home match, and then it's all blue Rangers fans that are going to Ibrox, and they don't have that thing of, are they going to be on subways together as their mixed crowds? So, yeah. But hopefully it does. You say,
where's the fun in that, though? I mean, that's the police having an easy life, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but
it did have an impact on the results. Certainly, Rangers, who were having a tough time at the time, started to get a wee bit better results by just not having the Celtic fans there. Because obviously, if there's even if it's only 700 or 1,000 or a smaller number of Celtic fans, if they're winning all the time, then it does rub it into the 50,000 blue noses that are sitting there watching their team getting beat. So yeah, but that's the desires to get it back. And Brian, you touched on, it'd be amazing if we went back to the kind of the good old days where there was a whole stand of the opposition.
Well, yeah, certainly more than 1,000 people would make a big difference. Some would. I mean, 1,900 does make a difference. Of course, it does, because you want it as a team. And this is the thing we've talked about time and time again, about VAR's kind of robbed is celebrating a goal,
Yeah.
And if you're even if there's only 900 people there, to be able to go over without causing, going right up and diving into crowd suffering and all that kind of thing, but to go and celebrate with them at that moment in time, and whether it's at Celtic Park or whether it's at Ibrox, is something that you should be allowed to do, and it should happen. It should be a great memory,
And touching on what you were saying as well, the viewing, the fans watching it all around the world want to see it. That's what adds to the atmosphere. That's why that is really hard, because the television folk, they want the atmosphere and they want the tribalism, but they don't want the bigotry. Understandably, they don't want the sectarianism.
No.
But so it's a very fine line they're treading. Because they're wanting the standing in, and they're wanting those fans that sing and are passionate and everything else, but they're kind of want to tidy it up as well, and that's the balance that they're trying to get right. But definitely the big companies and TVs want the atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? They want the atmosphere, they want the passion, and as you say, Brian, if Celtic score and they run into that 1,000 or 2,000 fans, that's great television. Do you know what I mean? It's not so much if it's not, and vice versa. If it's a Rangers player scoring at Parkhead, there's drama and theatre in that as well. You know, running to your own crowd.
Just talking about that, with regards to crowds, and I know you've played all over the place, but you've got a lovely little story about playing in Berlin, with regards to crowd reaction.
Yeah,
or a perception of crowd reaction.
Perception, So, first of all, we've done Berlin. We did 2 shows in Berlin. We also did the Lifers down in Greenock, and that was the first time that they brought the male and female prisoners together for the show. So that was kind of funny. It was like going back to school because all the guys were showing off in front of the women. Do you know what I mean? It was really funny. It was being at, kind of primary school or high school where the guys are going, oh, the girls are in, we'll show off. So that was done in Greenock for the Lifers. But in Berlin, so we went into Berlin, and even going in is a daunting process. I'd never been in a prison visiting or for an overnight or anything. So going in, you're going in the van, and they open up the security gates. The van goes in, they check the van for explosives and anything else, and then they open up the other gate and they let the van through eventually. So that itself, and handing over your mobile phone and all your stuff is a kind of a daunting experience. And then we went in, and it was the chapel at Berlin we were going to be performing in. So we went in and we were kind of getting set up and stuff. And we did an afternoon show, and we were having a Johnny Cash moment, if truth be told. We're in a prison doing a show about 2 guys in a prison. It's kind of, it's one of those kind of moments of going, right, we're having our Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison Blues here. So we're in the afternoon. So we do 2 shows. There's one at night, but the afternoon show, all the kind of prisoners come down and they're all sitting there, waiting to see the show. And we start the show, and there's a bit in the show, I won't give anything away, but there's a bit in it where, and all the way through it, the guys walk a fine line between they push the boundaries all the time, and it's tit for tat. And at one point, Ken, the Celtic fan, reveals something that Celtic fans would go, no way, right, no way. So at that, we know that in certain crowds, I can hold it for longer when it needs to be done to make them squirm, and there's other times I can answer it quicker because it's intense. And at this time, I hadn't even really had time to think about it. He said his line, and a guy got in the front row at Berlin, a big, strong-looking macho man got up and stormed out, and I'm on stage and I'm going, I should have said that line earlier than next, because I take the mickey, so I take the mickey of what he said, and it diffuses it, right? And so I say the line and everything, and he heads off, and we don't see him. And I'm thinking, oh God, we're going to cause a riot in the prison, right? These guys are about to murder us and cause a riot. Well, they'll be on the roof. They'll be on the roof soon enough, right? They're going to upset them that much. And as the kind of play unfolds, the guy walks back and takes his seat back in the front row. And I'm thinking maybe he's calmed down. Maybe he stood at the door and he's watched it and he's seen me, kind of give him stick for what he said. And at the end of the show, obviously we get a round of applause and stuff like that. And I'm chatting to the prison guards. I says, God, when that big guy got up, I thought we'd fair upset him, And he says, well, Big John, he was just nipping away for the toilet. The guy got up to go for a pee. Just so happens he went for it a bit in the play that we were worried about. He wasn't bothering his shirt. He just needed to go to the toilet. So yeah, but that's what I mean. That's the environment that's created that in amongst us, and that's something. If I'm being honest, what Brian said, you're trying not to let the environment affect you. As a player or as an actor, it's like when I was doing Dublin and it was 1,300 Celtic fans, and a couple of blue voices in there, probably my mammy or something like that. But you're trying not to be intimidated. You're trying not to let that atmosphere, but it's very hard to do. And you can do your meditation, do your focus, and try and drown out that crowd. But there is just certain times where it can affect you. And I think that's why the crowds are so important. We've seen that in lockdown when the crowds disappeared. Football wasn't a patch on what it is when the crowds are back in.
So would you say that gives you the biggest buzz as an actor? Especially, obviously, not on the screen, but as on the stage, the biggest buzz you can probably get is that interaction with the crowd, seeing a crowd react. Probably, if you think what it was like, must have been like playing football behind closed doors a few years ago. I can imagine that would probably be the worst scenario for you, is playing to a crowd that just doesn't have any interest or.
Well, it's interesting, and I remember Billy Connolly telling me about audiences. I grew up watching Billy's VHS videos. We're talking about the cassette recordings. I grew up with the VHSs, and one of the things I remember him in an interview, and he said, "Where the living's tough, the crowds are really good. Where it's a working kind of class town or an area, like say a Coatbridge and an Airdrie where people have to work really hard to get by. They want to laugh. They really enjoy their night out. And I think it was Aberdeen. We went up to in Aberdeen, and and they were very quiet. And we kind of came off at half time. I don't know if they're enjoying it as much as the Glasgow crowds. And I think maybe it's, maybe it's just it doesn't hit here as much. And actually, we were wrong. What it was is it was a theatre crowd, and they were respecting the actors by being quiet throughout the show. But at the end, the applause was explosive. A standing ovation, and everybody clapping like mad. It was incredible. And I think over the course of it, you realise in different places sometimes they're a listening audience, and that comes with experience. You kind of the show depending. There's some nights you're in a crowd where it's a non-theatre going crowd. They're wanting to sing along and all that stuff. And what you're trying to do with them is go, trust, like, your team's been represented. There's 2 guys on stage. We've been rehearsals in this. I mean, Colin and I did the show for 5 years. We're bloody good at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't need anybody to think that we're not going to cover anything. Everything gets covered. It's a fair fight. Do you know what I mean? It's 50-50, tit for tat. But yeah, the depends on. I mean, a Saturday night crowd compared to a Tuesday night crowd is very different. Because obviously a Saturday night, they've maybe been in the pub a bit longer and the atmosphere kicks in a bit more. There's what I always say is that we before the show we play house music, and it's normally we play the songs that you play at Ibrox before a match and the songs that you play at Parkhead. So it's tit for tat. So Simply the Best will maybe be on. The Rangers fans are stamping their feet, and then You'll Never Walk Alone comes on. The Celtic fans are stamping their feet a bit harder than the Rangers fans, and it starts right off. But yeah, it's. The big crowds and the Friday, Saturday nights is phenomenal. That's pretty long we've done with this tour. We've kept it to Friday and Saturday nights. And that's both because Paul and I have got families and other stuff going on as well now, that we don't really want to be doing the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. We're quite happy doing the big nights and just having a longer tour.
Yeah, Brian noticed that you weren't, Cope Bridge wasn't on the tour, so maybe that's because you couldn't, the crowd on a Saturday night in Cope Bridge would be too much to...
Well, it depends where it is. We're doing Airdrie Town Hall, so I mean...
Oh, well, that's close enough.
We email every venue we can in the country and see if they'll take it. And there's a number of reasons. I know, like Motherwell's, their theatre's closed at the moment down in Motherwell. So I think that's something to do with the brickwork or asbestos or something. So the theatre's actually closed down there. So, but no theatres off the cards. We email people all the time, and there's multiple reasons. Sometimes people have got a programme, they're busy for a year, and you have to go in the following year. So yeah, I think this show tour forever, and it can travel. It can travel the world. You could go to Australia and you find Rangers and Celtic supporters clubs there. Canada, America. There's a Rangers supporters club in Dubai. Celtic have a convention every year in Las Vegas. So there's scope to take the play all over the world, and I wouldn't mind a wee holiday to Australia or a wee trip to Dubai or a wee weekend in Las Vegas.
Well, you mean you weren't invited to the Middle East like Brian was last summer? No,
not yet.
There's a Celtic Sports Club in Dubai as well.
Yeah,
Brian's looking for them all just to
see what he can sketch off each one of them.
When you're just talking about your crowd in Aberdeen there, Scott, that when Alex Ferguson was the manager of Aberdeen, he was asked, was he a bit disappointed after a victory that the crowd weren't a bit more excited? And he said, I knew how excited they were. They were very excited because I could hear them rustling their sweetie papers.
Scott,
but there's another aspect of the show that there's a life in it, in terms of we could easily the character, the actor that plays the turnkey, James, has been doing it for years. But we've always looked at how we can mix the show up. One of them we were looking at was, could we bring in a kind of famous face to play the turnkey? Because it's a smaller part, it's a bit easier to remember. So you never know, Brian. If you dust off your acting shoes, we might be able to get you in for a wee cameo as the jailer. And I know Charlie.
I tell you what, see what Maurice Johnson's up to these days. See if he's had any acting lessons.
That's it, exactly, yeah. Or Kenny Miller,
Scott, we had Packy Lee from Peaky Blinders on a while back, and he said that even though he had obviously a big, pretty prominent role in one of the world's biggest TV shows and loads of other projects that he's done, he's still had to take quote unquote normal jobs to pay the bills. And I heard you on another podcast saying that you had to do exactly the same during lockdown.
Yeah, so I thought this goes back to what I was saying at the start, is that I went to college to change my life. So when I was studying at college, I was working night shift during the night in the supermarket, and I was going to college in the morning. I still had my Safeways uniform on. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Safeways, but I used to work a night shift in Safeways, and I would go to college with my uniform on in the morning. But yeah, so and I've always had another job. I've always kind of whether it be running theatre company or running theatres or whatever else. But yeah, during the lockdown, so kind of before lockdown, things were going really, really great for me, and they're still going great just now. But just in terms of the acting career, I had a movie lined up, I had 2 theatre shows lined up, and we're looking ahead in the diary as an actor. That's a pretty good year to be looking ahead at. And lockdown happened. Obviously, nobody knew what was going on. So for the first 6 months, it was like a compulsory break, which, to be honest, I think I needed it. When you're kind of self-employed like that, you kind of you don't take a break. You know, I take holidays from one job to do another job. That sort of thing goes on in my life. So when the lockdown happened, there was a compulsory break. You know, in the back garden a lot, the clear skies because there's no planes there, there's no cars moving anywhere. Lots of barbecues, you know, painting the fence and doing all the things that we all probably did. And then after about 6 months ago, I need a job. I need to do something. And I went onto the job sites and there's no acting work, there's no theatre work, everything's closed. And the only jobs I could see were care jobs. And I don't have a background in that whatsoever, other than, you know, my mum looked after my gran for a wee while before my gran passed away. But certainly it wasn't my job, it wasn't my role to do a lot of that. I was just there to help when I could. So I went into the interview and I kind of chatted about that. That was the only experience I had, was supporting my gran. And we did a lot of training. They gave me the job and I did loads of training about how to peg feed someone, how to lift someone in a hoist, and how to save someone's life if they're choking, and loads of different training that I was going, what are they preparing me for, geez, oh. And then they matched me up with a young autistic lad. And I remember the first day I went in and the young lad was watching a DVD 3 times in a row. It was Beauty and the Beast. And I sat down on the couch with the other guy that was there, and I'm sitting thinking, is this what the guy's life is, just watching a DVD 3 times a day? And then the next day when I go up, I'm now in charge. They hand you the keys. That's you done your shadow shift, they call it. That's me learning the job. And the young lad was running rings around me. You know, he's opening cans of juice out of the cupboard and eating all the stuff he's not supposed to be doing and everything else. I'm going, no, he's running rings around me. So I thought, we'll jump into the car and we'll go a drive, and I'll take him to like a castle. If he likes Beauty and the Beast, maybe we'll take him to a castle. So obviously from doing the theatre tours for years, I knew all the castles in Scotland. I'd been to all the theatres. And we started kind of going out that way, and then there was days we'd go long walks and stuff like that, and kind of getting the boy out of the house. And I knew he'd spent a lot of time in the house, and he was capable a lot more than what he was doing when I started. To give you an idea, the 2 years I worked with him, the young lad went on helicopter trips. We got him a jacuzzi out his back garden. We climbed loads of big hills, lots of walking. He was losing weight because of the amount of walking and fitness we were doing. We would be taking like bottles of water rather than cans of Coke when we're going to walk. So when you get thirsty, there's only water. So his palate was changing, his diet was improving, and it was such a rewarding job. I mean, I was coming home from work high as a kite. My wife said that to me. She said, I mean, the movies are great and the theatre's wonderful. She's like, but I've never seen you chat so passionately about when you're chatting about the young lads, and I'm going, but you never get a job like this in your life. You're making a difference to someone's life. It's incredible. So I did that for 2 years. And after 2 years, obviously the pandemic kind of finished up and the theatres opened back up again, and I went back into the industry that I was from. But one of the things that inspired was my wife Karen and I decided to become foster carers. So we've been foster carers now for 3 years, and we'll get 2 amazing kids that stay with us on a permanent basis, and they're 14 and 13. They've been with us for 2.5 years, and again, forget about BAFTAs, forget about awards, forget about anything. I'd imagine how good it must have felt for Brian scoring goals at a professional level. Looking after the kids and seeing them growing and developing is the best feeling in the world. I mean, I gave the kids a wee incentive the other week. It was £50 if you can pass the driving theory test. Now, at the time, they were 12 and 13, so no 12 or 13-year-olds are driving cars yet. But they did every day. They came home from school and they did a theory test every day, and I think it took them about 3.5 weeks, and they both passed it, and they fleeced me for 50 quid. So things like that is the best feeling in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the best feeling in the world of going. And then I met my nephew, who's 21, on the bus, and I was with a young lad we look after, and he said to me, I said, how are you getting on? He said, I failed my driving theory test. And without missing a beat, being the plonker that I am and the terrible uncle, I said, oh, the wee man passed it. He's only 13. So you can imagine how great my nephew felt that a 13-year-old's passed it and he failed it.
Someone obviously hadn't given him a bung. That's obviously why he didn't.
Yeah, that's it. So there's a motivation and incentive in that. So I've got to be careful with that, because make a lot of money out of me when I put a wee incentive like that on. So, but yeah, that I mean, that's the most important role I've ever done. and it's by far the best thing we've ever done in our lives, my wife and I. So very proud of that.
Well, you said that that's the best role you've ever done. If we think about the acting again, what are the best parts that you've been up for that you didn't get?
Oh, easy one, that one. I was up for Pennyworth, which was the Batman spin-off. So I'll get down to the last two for Pennyworth, and it was. So I don't know if you know Pennyworth, but Pennyworth, it was Alfred the Butler's story before he became the butler for Bruce Wayne. So I get down to the last two to be the Glaswegian ex-SAS alcoholic best mate of Alfred from when he was in the military. And obviously I'd already played a soldier in the British Army and when I played Stu Pearson in Kijaki, and I was desperate to get it. And I get down to the last two, and at the time I didn't know who I was up against, and I lost out. And I lost out to an actor that I actually knew, Ryan Fletcher. And Ryan's a brilliant actor, a really good guy, and I knew he'd had a bit of a tough time as well. Like, acting can be, famine and feast. You go a long time without stuff. So when I heard Ryan had got it, I wasn't too disappointed. And Ryan's a fiery redhead, so. The joke I have with Ryan is they cast Willie for The Simpsons, a big American show, and they cast Willie for The Simpsons, that. So I was a bit of laugh at that, but that would have been a great one, and I'd love to have done that. And I've been up for Vikings 3 times, and the best one I've got is Outlander by far. I remember sitting watching Outlander in the house and saying to the wife, "How good would it be if I came in on a horse or something on this?" If I get a part in this, it'd be amazing. So there's been a few ones like Vikings or Pennyworth where you get to watch it in the house and you're going, "Oh God, I love to have done that," So, but
you mentioned Outlander there. I mean, a bit like when we had Packy Lee on the other week. You land a role like that, and in a show that everyone watches, everyone talks about. I mean, that's got to completely raise your profile and probably impact on the jobs that you get going forward after that. It probably changes your whole profile.
Yeah, and there's loads of lessons within it. I'll make a kind of a good wee story for any aspiring actor. So I'd been with an acting agent for, I think it was 5 years or whatever, and I'd got Angel's Share, got Kijaki, and I landed Outlander. And like anything, you want everything to come faster than it does. But when you join the dots looking backwards, everything's happening at the right time for the right reason, and you've got to trust it. But when I got Outlander, I thought I'm going to go down to London and get a London agent and jump kind of on and try and get bigger roles for this. And I went to London. I was with an agent for a year and it didn't work out. And another agent for a year, it didn't work out. And I wish I hadn't left the agent I was with, because I had a great relationship and everything. And just that wee thing of thinking the grass is greener sometimes. I think I thought, a new agent would be able to get me more work than the last agent. And I'm now very happy with the agent I've got, and it's an Edinburgh-based agent, which suits me. Being a Scottish-based actor, it suits you, particularly in the world now. You can zoom to anywhere in London, so it's not that you don't get seen. You don't need to be jumping on planes to London as much as you used to be. But yeah, in terms of the life changing, it's phenomenal in a show like that. And I mean, we went to the BAFTAs, numerous times. We're invited to meet the Queen, the palace and stuff like that. And Comic Cons all over the world, being in Germany, France, Canada, sort of stuff. Brian's chatting away there is maybe getting to go to some fantastic places with the supporters clubs. There's Outlander supporters clubs all over the world as well. So my wife and I have been all over the world, and we delivered theatre workshops, and we've raised money for various charities in France. We raised a lot of money for a school in France and stuff like that. And that was just the teacher was an Outlander fan. She asked me to go and do a workshop with the kids. I went over, did a workshop, met the kids, thought you could do a bit of support. We raised a couple of grand for the school and stuff, and sent them different merchandise and stuff. So stuff like that's incredible. But the other aspect of it, and Brian probably identify with this, the other thing is you've got to be able to manage the kind of come down after it, of going from those highs to then settling back into going, right, need the next job. What's the next thing going to be? And I suppose footballers must have that when they come in at maybe the end of the career. It's you've been doing that and you're looking, going, what can I do next? Well, acting's a wee bit like that, because I'm 40 now, so I won't be playing Romeo ever again. There's certain roles that have passed you by now. You're not going to get to do those because you're older. So you're kind of looking at new roles and new ways of doing things, and how you want to spend your time. So. But yeah, it was an incredible journey, and I think I went from having a couple of thousand Twitter followers to over 500,000. So it's had a huge impact on the social media, which helps with things like Billy and Tim and other shows. Helps you. People see an Outlander, but they come and see the other stuff you've done, which is incredible.
I didn't know whether you had anything else up your sleeve, Brian, before we move on
just
to
wanted just about Outlander there. It's a hell of a hat you're wearing and a hell of a bonnet. Did you get to keep that?
No, what did I? So most people get asked when they're on a big show like that, did you manage to? Did they give you anything to take away, or did
I
you
just thought
pinch
you just
anything?
blagged it, that
Yeah,
bonnet.
so,
It's a rascal of a bonnet, isn't it?
So I didn't get the bonnet because that's someone's job. They've got to keep a hold of that. But I did get my finger, and I won't be rude to show you what finger it was, but it was in one of the scenes. I've got a fish hook through my finger,
I've seen that.
and they made a mold of my finger, and I got to keep. So I've got a fake finger from that. And Kijaki, I've got my dog tags for the movie, and the Angel Share I don't have a script for, which is really strange. So in my house I've got like Outlander scripts on the wall. I've got Kijaki script on the wall signed by all the cast, and there's nothing for Angel Share because there was no script, which was incredible.
It'd be nice to have a full ginger bottle full of the whiskey from Angel Share.
Well, that's true. Well, you're talking about whiskey, right? So that's the wee story. Billy and Tim jumping back to the play. I found the play almost 2 decades ago in a library, but Des Dillon, who wrote it, had written it about 12 years before that. So the play that people are coming to see is 30 years in the making, and if it was a whiskey, it'd be very expensive. So yeah, it's like a fine whiskey is the theatre show. It's took 30 years in the making, but you come and see it.
Previously on Life with Brian.
I said, Prime Minister, stop talking. And I'm peeing against the wall, and there's 2 old guys behind me, and one says to the other, the laddie doesn't ken any better.
Pubic hairs on a cracker, the worm sandwich, he actually chewed it.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
As is customary, we have a quiz for Brian and our guest, and we couldn't make it about anything else other than the old firm this time, could we? So let me introduce you to this meticulously researched challenge we're calling, Is it a Billy or a Tim? And here are the rules. It's a penalty shootout, 5 attempts each, and you have to tell us whether the answer is either Rangers by saying Billy or Celtic by saying Tim. And for those Celtic fans who are listening, for the sake of this daft quiz on a daft podcast, we're ignoring any shouts of Rangers being more than one club. That's for you guys to argue over on social media. So please don't write in with any complaints. Scott, Brian, are you both happy with the rules?
I'm happy that now if I lose, I'll be questioning it. It'll be VAR and everything.
Right. Brian's on a bit of a streak, isn't he?
No, I'm not. No, I've lost.
He's looking down there. He's sitting with the
I've lost.
There's no chance he knows the. Well, he might know 1 or 2 of these, but there's a couple that he's never going to get unless he's just stabbing in the dark. So, Scott, you're our guest, so you're going to get the honour of going first. And so it's this: who has the most Scottish Cup final appearances up to the 22-23 season?
That's Billy.
Oh, you've missed your first one. That's actually Tim.
Celtic. I know, but I had to go with my team. If
you're going to do that for every question, you're going to get back.
You better get one right, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think you're better off to go with your head rather than your heart. Celtic lead that by 59-52, and they've also won it the most times, having done so 41 on 41 occasions.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Similar vein for this one for you, Brian. Your opener is, which club has the most Scottish League Cup final appearances up to and including the current 23-24 season?
Billy.
He knows that one. Stuck in his throat, but Rangers are ahead on this one. Narrowly, 37-36.
Yeah, he was pretty confident there, having just been one different.
You just Googled it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 1-0 to Chucky. All right, so Scott, you're playing catch up. And your second one is this: which club has been top flight runners up the most up to last season, which was 2022-23?
Just because Celtic have won so many recently that I'm going to go with Tim on that one.
Oh, mate, you missed again. This one's Billy.
Oh, man. Well, when Rangers did 9 in a row, I was thinking, well, Celtic were runner-up for those 9 years, but Rangers have just had the 9 years of our medicine of having to sit and watch Celtic winning for 9 years in a row.
Yeah, it's close again, the margin being 34-32.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, right. Chucky, phone away, please. Your second one is, which club, including recent youth teams, has notched up the most Glasgow Cup victories?
Billy.
Yeah, the look in your eyes was that an educated guess? Was it?
He spat that one out though.
Yeah, it's true, Billy.
No.
Well, you don't want to. It was a guess.
I have played in the Glasgow Cup final at Ibrox. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I assume you lost, judging by the pain on your face. Yeah.
I know I scored the penalty, but I can't remember what the final score was.
Okay. Well, Rangers are quite a way ahead in this one by 58 wins to Celtic's 40.
Okay, Scott, pressure really is on now. So we're up to penalty number 3. And the question is, which club has reached the Champions League knockout stages the most, going back to its formation in 1992-93?
I'm going to go with Rangers, Billy. No.
No, not another one. It's actually Celtic, so it's a Tim. Celtic, yeah, they're ahead.
This is a fix. I've been set up here. It's a setup.
They're ahead by 3 qualifications to 1. But you might not be surprised to learn that neither have ever been beyond the round of 16.
No.
The year Rangers should have won it, mind you, when they got cheated for Marseille. You got to remember that.
Well, that was just group stage, wasn't it? And you had to. There was only 2 groups, and whoever won the groups got to the straight to the final.
Year. That was the year.
Is anyone keeping an eye on the score here, by the way?
Oh, it's 2-0 to Brian at the minute.
Don't you worry, Brian doesn't score.
He's going to put it on his honours board along with those 4 Premier League titles. And Brian, your third one is this: which of these clubs has the most of its former players inducted into the Scottish Football Hall of Fame, excluding any entire... Do you want me? Should I finish the question, or are you blazing it?
Billy.
So you're saying Billy. Okay. Excluding any entire teams, for example, the Lisbon Lions, so just players on their own. And the actual answer is Tim.
Is it?
Oh, I'm still in the game there.
Celtic topped the chart with this one, 29 to 27. There's one person in the Hall of Fame who can't have both sides. Care to take a guess who it was?
They played for both teams.
Yeah.
Scottish Football Hall of Fame.
There's only about 20 people have done that or something. There's not too many.
There's one that everyone knows of, though.
No, not him.
Oh, the unmentionable one, yeah.
Yeah.
How's he in there and you're not?
Well,
he's a better player than me.
Depends who you ask. All right, Scott. So
anyway.
Yeah. Right, Scott. You're back in with this. He's left the door open for you.
That's not a good thing. Right.
Right. Now, okay, we're notching up the difficulty from this point.
I've already got 3 wrong. Come on.
All right. Well,
give me some of Brian's questions.
I'm kind of hopeful you're going to get this one. Which club's home ground lies closest by road to Glasgow's George Square?
Yeah, that's definitely Tim.
It definitely is Tim. Yeah, Celtic Park is 2.3 miles from the
5
centre
minute
of the
walk
city.
if you run.
What do you mean, apparently? Mark, you were up there pacing it out the other day, you told me.
Oh, yeah, I had a yardstick thing that the surveyors have. So Celtic Park's 2.3 miles away, and Ibrox is 4.1 miles away. So, okay, you're back in it. That's 2-1 to Brian, yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading this one ahead so I don't make any mistakes. Because these are obviously sealed in an envelope before we do this. I don't get these.
Independently verified.
Yeah. So, Chocky, this will test how often you play board games. Which team name, Rangers or Celtic, scores the highest in a game of Scrabble? No double or triple word scores.
Team.
Yeah.
Scores highest.
Yeah.
Come on, don't look like that. Like you never used to play Scrabble on the back of the bus.
Billy.
Pressure's got to him. It's Tim. Celtic will score you 10.
Got him on the ropes.
Celtic will score you 10 points, while Rangers will only get you 7.
Ooh.
Surprised me there, being a wordsmith.
That's it. That's 2-1 with 1 penalty each. Is that left to go? Is that right? It is. Okay. Right, Scott. Here we go. In Brian's final season with Celtic, which was 1986-87, which club pulled in the highest aggregate home league attendances? So all the home games added together.
Oh, Brian's final season was 86.
86-87, yeah.
I was only born in 83.
That's no excuse.
I'm trying to think when the new Parkhead was built. That was later, so it would have been bigger. I'm going to go with Billy.
Oh, nice one. You've slotted that away nicely. Yes, it is Billy. Rangers were much further ahead on this than I expected. Their total was 809,215 to Celtic's 561,505. I'm assuming you must have been playing terribly that year, Brian, that it made people stop coming.
That was after he handed in that transfer request. They obviously.
Right, okay. So all his groupies stopped coming then.
Graham Souness was buying all the seats at. The crowd. There wasn't actually people there. There was just that Souness was buying all the.
So that's 2-2.
2-2, right?
2-2, right? Let's just sit there for a minute. We don't need to just enjoy this.
Go up to him, start scuffing the penalty spot, whisper in his ear. Brian, you're finishing the quiz with this tapping. Which club has the best top flight goal difference up to the end of the 2022-2023 season?
So that's only 130 odd years worth of Scottish League football there you have to consider.
Really?
No, he did tap it in. He didn't. The pressure didn't get to him.
Yeah.
Amazing. 130 odd years of football, as Mark said. And but interesting, the gap between them was only 10 goals. Rangers on top. Rangers on top with a plus 5,278 goal difference to Celtic's plus 5,268. And that includes the 4 seasons where Rangers took a little holiday, should we say. So
and as the Rangers legend manager Bill Struth said, the man who can smile in defeat is far more likely to win the next time out. So well done, Brian.
We'll have a rematch when we're all in Coatbridge.
Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag.
Dip your hand in the mailbag, please, Matthew, and see what our listeners have sent in for Brian and Scott.
Okay, I've had a good rummage around. Scott, first one's for you. Jim Burke asks, has anyone ever really taken the play the wrong way and thought, hey, you know what? Sectarianism is actually pretty cool?
I know it's a tough one for me because I lost the show, right? So the rights for the show were taken away from me after I had the show for 5 years, and there was different producers over the years, and I've never seen the show, so I can't possibly kind of comment on that. But I do remember at points there was posters that I seen for the show, and it was like, Scotland's 2 biggest bigots are back stuff, and I was kind of going, our show was very much an anti-sectarian comedy, and there's a real anti-sectarian message within it. So when I seen that on the posters, I was kind of going, that's not the same show we were producing then, even though it was the same script. And on our posters, the latest posters we've done, the tagline at the bottom is a potent allegory for peace processes all over the world, and that is it. When you're creating a piece of theatre, it's to try and kind of create an emotion and a reaction from people, but also there's a bit an aspect of it to make you look at yourself and hopefully bring out a wee bit something good in the characters, and the characters go on a journey of discovery, and they grow up, I think, over the course of the 90 minutes. But yeah, so I think there's an aspect of that when we seen the latest publication of the script, there was certain maybe jokes and stuff that we were going, that wasn't in the last version, and I don't think we'll put that in. So yeah, but I don't in terms of the audience. Certainly, comments, maybe somebody would be drunk in the front row and say something sometimes at certain different shows or something. But again, this probably goes back to what I said to you about the Aberdeen audience, that were kind of more a theatre audience, that were educated. I hadn't been involved in theatre, I hadn't been involved in amateur theatre, so I had no expectations how an audience would behave. Whereas Colin Little, who plays Tim in the show, Colin grew up in an amateur dramatic background, so when people would come in and they would maybe sing along or shout out certain things, I didn't know that they weren't supposed to do that, so I wasn't really fazed. Whereas I think Colin was a wee bit like, I wish they would let us do the talking and the singing and tell the story. We don't need them to join in and put these things in. So yeah, but it's a passionate subject, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's so sensitive that some people could actually just see the poster or see some promo for it and actually think it's a bit of a take it seriously. Maybe like when Dave Allen used to take the piss out of the Catholic Church. People almost bite and think without actually seeing the irony in it.
We were a bit worried when we went to Belfast. Well, I drove to Belfast in a van that had the poster on the side of the van because I was naive and didn't really realise I'd never been to Belfast before. So when I jumped onto the ferry and drove my van that had a big billboard on the side of it over to Northern Ireland, I didn't quite expect the pavements to be painted and the murals on the walls and stuff, and I was a wee bit naive, so we had to hide the van at the Waterfront Theatre in Belfast for the weekend, and I didn't move it. It was a bit like Belfast for the security gates. They checked the van for explosives and stuff, and then we parked it into the bay, which was surrounded by a giant fenced wall, and we left the van there all weekend, and we walked back and forward to the theatre rather than driving.
It made it back. It made it back.
Yeah,
all
but the audiences in Belfast did say that it was funny to see two Glaswegians arguing about something that in their eyes was nothing to do with them. So that was the response we got for a lot of the audiences in Belfast and stuff.
Cool.
Good question.
John Brooke asked you, which footballer would you want to play in a biopic? And Chucky, which actors would you want to play a younger and an older version of you in a biopic about your life? So we go with you, Scott.
It was so difficult. I mean, in terms of because I'm thinking, who would I maybe look like? That's one aspect to it. Who would I like to play like? I mean, to me, I grew up in the kind of 9 in a row seasons, so Ryan Laudrup was the kind of hero of that time for me. Even how he conducted himself and how he looked at things. I always remember watching an interview and he said, I love the football, and when it gets into religion, no, that's not for me. And I really liked him. So something like that. But I'd probably more likely get cast as Charlie Miller than anybody, because Charlie's from just up the road. Do you know what I mean? A good Glasgow boy. So that's probably more likely if they were making a biopic on Charlie Miller.
Well, they can do wonders.
Wouldn't mind playing Ali McBoy. I loved Ali as well growing up. So there I've got a feast of proposals. I'll take any. I
can do wonders with makeup these days,
That's true, yeah.
Talking of which, I'm sure we had this question sometime. But when we had Michelle Roux on, we were discussing who might play you in a.
No, it was it John Bradley maybe from Game of Thrones? But we picked a few Scottish actors out, didn't we, for Brian? We got what was his name again? The guy from Game of Thrones who played and Bodyguard, Richard Madden. Richard Madden.
Right, okay.
No one sensed that you suddenly thought, Brian, you know what, I'd love him to play a young version of me.
Well, Martin Compston was the other one, but I think we slated him in for Paul. Yeah. We said Paul McStay for him, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
Well, we're still working on that series, aren't we? So do that when we come to it.
Well, I did get auditioned for Jock Stein in one of the Celtic stories.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the story was going to be, but they asked me if I would be interested in playing Jock Stein. I could see we were looking at the photographs. I was going, I could do that. I could get there.
I could see it. Yeah, what a part that would be. Chris Harris wants to know, Chucky, if there are or ever have been any circumstances where you would have worn a Glasgow Rangers shirt.
Would there ever be any circumstances?
Well, have there been,
or would there be?
No, there wasn't any opportunities.
Stag do or something. No,
there's no photographs out there, Brian.
There were people who said there were some notable
kilt.
people said that it should have been me that rather than the unmentionable one that was the first one. So there was that mention. So. But
there's nothing kicking around in in that loft in Coatbridge somewhere. An old Polaroid of you, an old black and white picture of you in a Rangers shirt. No.
Yeah, we have a blouse on in a Rangers
shirt. He'd rather admit to wearing a blouse than a Rangers shirt.
Yeah, a blouse and a girl's kilt.
I think we'd say that as a no. I mean,
white socks.
Okay, all right. Enough of this now. You're getting carried away. I guess we could ask you, Scott, the same about donning a green and white hoops shirt. Has it ever happened?
Yeah, I think I have over the years. Obviously, growing up in a household with my older brother, I'm sure there'll be footage somewhere. And obviously, in the show, there's we do a bit of what do you call it, promo and stuff like that for it. So at the moment, I've got half and half tops for the kids.
Yeah.
So we went to the shops, bought a Rangers top with Celtic. We bought two, and then went to the tailors and asked them to cut them in half. Which I got some funny looks, and then I asked the tailor to sew them back together again, and then I had to take them into Greaves Sport in Glasgow and asked them to put Billy Tim 24 on the back of my website.
This is
and again, so
shameful marketing. This is,
bro. It's probably the only way you're going to get away with that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, the kids have wore them for some of the promo days, but I don't think they like the looks they got. And what I say to people is, they say, "Why did you do the half and half?" I said, because if they wore the blue and they went up to a Celtic base, then they would get they wouldn't get a great reception, and vice versa. So the idea of half and half, at least kind of they'll be half loved and half hated by either side. So, but I think those two, I don't think the kids want to wear them again. So I think I'm going to get them framed. The Celtic Foundation, they contacted me asking for a kind of raffle prize, and I thought I'll try and get them framed. I'll give them a charity for either side, and they can maybe raffle them off and raise some money.
Have they got any allegiances?
The kids?
Yeah. No,
and I don't even watch the football in the house or anything. And I never kind of grew up in a household that watched the football, but I did go around. We were in and we put our noses against the window at the pub and watched the football. But no, I try not to, because I don't want to steer anybody. Do you know what I mean? I think, and they're interested in lots of different things. So they have been. I got some tickets to go to Parkhead, and I took the kids along to Parkhead at Christmas. They were more excited about the selection boxes that they were getting in the stadium than anything else. They haven't been to Ibrox yet because I've not had any tickets. I've taken them to see Partick Thistle and I've taken them to see the rugby and stuff like that as well. So yeah, but again, I think there's that many other things that kids are interested in now. I think we grew up in a generation where it was everybody was into football. There's so many. We've been to the ice hockey and all that stuff with them. So there's a lot of other interests I've got as well. But they're excited. They want to see the show. They're really keen to see the show. So the kids haven't seen me in anything. They're too young to watch Angels Share, too young to watch Kajaki, too young to watch Outlander. So they've been in. There's photographs and there's things in the hallway on the wall and stuff like that. And there's photos of my old high school that they go to. So they're aware of what I do, but they've not seen me doing it. They've even been to drama workshops where I'm teaching, which they didn't like.
Got all that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Finally, it's our old friend Cumbrian Dave with a message for Chocky.
Who was the best Rangers player you played against?
Richard Gough.
Straight away. Yeah. Just marked you out the game, did he? Roughed you up? Gave you a few digs?
Oh, there's all of that, of course. Yeah, he's just did
it better than anyone else.
He was a really very good football player. Yeah, very interesting person as well.
Yeah. Any others that come to mind?
He wasn't usually on the pitch long enough. Well, there's some great players coming with them. I mean, in that season, Terry Butcher and Robert Pritz was always a difficult opponent. He always played well for Rangers in Old Firm games.
Well, we'll put Richard Gough down to the answer for that one from Cumbrian Dave. So, and that wraps up the mailbag.
Yeah, let's bring down the curtain on this episode then. And firstly, Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed it.
No worries, gentlemen. Yeah, thank you very much. I've laughed and sang and danced and cried, and I've had my head in my hands at that quiz, but I won't go through it.
Can you tell us where to find out more about Singin? I'm Noah Billy. He's a Tim, and where to get tickets and so on?
Yeah, so all the information's on my website, which is www.scottkyle. So that's Scott with 2 T's, Kyle. .co.uk, and we're doing the Pavilion's a big one in Glasgow. We're going to Belfast in May. We're doing London in May as well. But all those dates, and just a town near you. I think there's 50 different venues. So as Brian says, even if you're on the move, you'll be able to catch it somewhere wherever you are.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you all the best with that, and hope it's as successful now as it has been when you did it 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. We've opened the 2025 ticket sales for Glasgow, so that's a good indication that there's still an audience for the show, because 2024 is almost sold out and 2025 started selling already. So that's October 2025 in Glasgow. So we're doing okay for selling tickets that far in advance.
Yeah, brilliant. Chocky, Matthew, thank you, and we'll see you. Well, I certainly will see both of you two very soon.
Yeah,
yes, we will. Yeah.
And to you, dear listener, thanks for being with us. Please hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to give us a nice review as well, because apparently that makes the podcast more visible. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Brian McClare Pod, and also take a look at what's on offer at the Sports Social Podcast Network, of which we are just a small part. We'll see you again soon, so bye for now.
Life with Brian, talking films or music. Life with Brian, talking TV and food. Life with Brian, talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian is different every episode. Life with Brian, talking politics and football. Life with Brian is different every episode. Life with Brian, Life with Brian.